Kelly here, and I am thrilled to be guest designing for Altenew's 6th video challenge. Today I'm going to be using two stamp sets by them. The first one is Way Too Sweet, and the second is Superscript 2. I didn't really know what I was going to do with my sentiment, so that comes later. To start with, I went ahead and die cut, this is just copy paper, and I used Tombow Mono multi-glue on the back. It's repositionable once it's dry, so I just use that to create a mask, and then I'm going to go in with some Distress ink, and I'm masking off the area where my main image is going to be, but I wanted something to make it pop a little bit. So I started with tumbled glass, and I didn't take it all the way out to the edges. I just concentrated mainly around the mask. And then with the Salty Ocean, I'm really just barely going outside of the mask. I didn't want it to be too heavy. And then once I've done the Salty Ocean, I'll go back in with the tumbled glass and blend it back out. Again, I did not go all the way to the edges. I just wanted a smooth blend out to white. Before I remove the mask, I'm taking a Copic safe black pen. I'm being really careful here to make sure that the pressure is toward the mask, because as you see there, it's not, this is not the best way to do an outline, but it is the best way that I have found to make sure that they line up. So sometimes the pen slips, and in order to make sure it doesn't slip out into the white, I make sure that the pressure is toward the mask. So once that is done, and if you can freehand it, you can totally freehand it. I'm just not, I'm not that talented. So I prefer to trace the mask. So this little sucker, it says love. It's a little heart sucker. It's completely adorable. And I thought it would be super cute to have like a little bouquet of suckers. I'm very blessed. I have lots of people I'm really grateful for in my life. And so I thought it would be adorable just to make a thank you card with these little suckers. So I'm using Intense Black. This is a newer Copic Safe ink, and I really like it, but I always outline my images. You probably don't need to with this, but I always do. So, you know, or I guess, I don't know, I just like it. I just like the way a bold outline is. So the great thing about clear stamps is that you can manipulate them on the block. So that's what I did for some of them. I curved the stamp to get a fuller bouquet. And I just masked and stamped as I went. And then I'm going to go in and Copic color them. I thought a rainbow of suckers would be adorable, and I love a rainbow, period. So any opportunity that I have to put that on a card, I'm totally going to. Here I've started with the red, and I'm covering the whole thing in R32, and then my light source is coming from the top right, so that would make everything in the bottom left darker. So that's how I'm coloring them. I'm coloring them as if the highlight would be in the top right, and I'm just using a light hand and flicking motions. I'm working from lightest to darkest, and then darkest back out to my lightest, careful to leave that little bit of highlight. Your shadows, which is your darkest color, and your highlight, your lightest color, should be the least of what's on your image. When you're done coloring, that should be the least of what you see. Your midtones should be what really take over. So here we're just switching over to some violets. We're going to do the same thing. I try to pay attention when I do one layer cards like this, where images are stacked on top of each other, to the shadows that they would cast onto each other. So this sucker is going to be substantially darker than the one that was up front, because the one that's up front doesn't have anything on top of it. So here, the sucker in between the red and the violet would cast a shadow onto the violet. So there's going to be a few more dark areas in this one, but again, it's not completely covered, so I will still have a little bit of a highlight in the top right portion, well, both top right portions of the heart. So I'm not going to show you all the colors. I'm just going to show you a few, just so you can get the idea of how I colored them. A complete list of everything that I used, all the colors that I used, will be on my blog, as well as in the description on YouTube. So that way you can, see maybe those color combinations will work for you. Especially with the yellow, I'm always trying out new ones just because I have a hard time finding something that I'm in love with. This one was more of a lemon yellow, and I liked that well enough. However, it bled. It bled like crazy into my heart below it. Fortunately for me, I was already going to use the yellow greens on one of the hearts, so this just was beneficial for me and my mistake to just go ahead and cover that up with the green, and it worked out just fine. I don't know why. I guess I got a little heavy-handed with the yellows, but there's a way to fix all of it. If I wouldn't have been using the yellow-green, I could have just used the 0 marker to kind of push that back in there, or used a darker color that would cover it, not like a blue, obviously, because then I would have green where I didn't want it. But you get the idea. So if you have never played along with Altenew's video challenge, they are extremely generous with their prizes. So if you do videos, I would recommend it. If you don't videos, I'd recommend giving it a try. You need a 3 to 7 minute video to enter. It doesn't have to be, anything that's super lengthy or super involved. Altenew products should be the focus of your project, but you can use other things too. It's just a fun way to kind of like maybe dip your toe in the video pool and see how that goes for you, and a chance to win some fun things. So here I wanted this. Which one did I use? It was Labels 14, I think, from Spellbinders. There it is. But you can use whatever you have, and so many companies make dies now. Just whatever you already have on hand, a shape that you think is pretty, that will carry your card. This is just the one that I had laying around, but I wanted to make it a little more 3D, and I'm going to do that using my C markers. So I started with the C7, and I'm just giving it a drop shadow. And truly, it is completely amazing what adding a shadow to your card will do for your images. I mean, just take something from flat to popped up and vibrant and 3D, and I love the way that adding a shadow can do that. And I'm just working, started with my darkest color, and I'm working my way out to my lightest, and this is just to blend it, so it's not such a harsh line. You don't have to do that. If you want a harder line, some shadows are harder than others, then you can leave that. I just prefer to blend mine out. So you do whatever makes you happy. After I did the outside, the bottom left, I wanted to do the inside as well, just to give it a little bit more depth. So here, because I wasn't really sure, I started with my lightest color. If you're not sure to where to put shadows or shading, I always recommend starting with your lightest color, because then it's super easy to cover up if you make a mistake. If you go in there with the C5 right away, it's much harder to try to cover up a boo-boo. So start off light. You can always add more. Here I'm just taking that same writing pen, same Copic safe marker, and adding in the sticks so that they came down into a bouquet. I wasn't really careful because I knew I was going to go back in here like I am and re-outline all of my images. And then so that's when I got a little more precise with how my sticks were going to be. I'm doing the same thing with the shadows here, and you'll notice I'm going right over top of any of the hearts. So if there's a shadow that's casting to the left, like the red would onto the orange, I took my C marker right on top of that. The only thing that I will tell you is you need to be careful when you do that, because if you are going over like a red with your C1, you can pick that up and drag it. So be careful. I did the shadows the same way for the suckers that I did for everything else. I used a C5, a C3, and a C1. And then I wanted to bring in a little bit more of that blue. So I'm bringing in a B00 and just outlining everything, not just the shadow side, the whole image. I'm outlining in blue. And that's just something that will help make your image pop a little more. I got a little heavy-handed when I was outlining some of those sticks. So I'm going to use a white gel pen to go ahead and bring those lines back so they don't look black, uneven. A white gel pen can really be your best friend. It really can be if you need to fix an area. And then I'm also going to use it to just draw in some highlights onto those hearts where the top right portion would be. And it's just a little added detail. So here I finally figured out what I was doing with my sentiment. Using the large thanks from the Superscript 2 And for this, I've switched inks. I've switched to a waterproof archival ink. This is, for me, the ink that I own that I get the best results from for a sentiment. So that's what I'm using. And again, we're going to bring in that white gel pen. This is a trick I've been using for a while when I want to do a one layer card to help my sentiment pop. So anywhere that the sentiment is sitting on top of lots of color, or in the case of the sticks, it's really busy behind there, I'm just using the white gel pen to outline that lettering and give it some segregation to help it pop off, to make it more readable. There's a sentiment in the Way Too Sweet set that says, "Thank you for being so sweet." I already had the thanks, so I just used a post-it note to get rid of the thank you, and then I just stamped "for being so sweet" to combine the two. Then I used the same white gel pen trick that I did before to make the "for being so sweet" a little bit more legible. Putting down some clear Wink of Stella. I love the way this stuff looks. Oh my gosh, it's so shimmery and beautiful. And that is the whole card. So I love the way that it came out. I hope that you will join us for the video challenge. Thank you so much to Altenew for inviting me, and I will catch you guys on the next video.